Music Matters. VVSThomas, my man, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Dude, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me at the place. San Francisco, California. Great night tonight, man. How you feeling?
I'm great, man. I started the day off with fucking calculus, so it's a great time to be like, we're chilling in the house now. Got an interview going on.
You're taking calc? You're 16?
Yeah.
So you're a sophomore or junior?
I'm a junior.
Oh my god, bro! I just want you to know you're on the right track. Because when I was 16, I was taking fucking financial algebra because I couldn't handle anything else, bro. That's crazy. I think I don't know. Are you? I think you might be the only person I've ever interviewed in high school, which is cool because I'm so used to being like younger than people I interview.
I fuck with it.
Yeah, it's cool. It was an interesting learning experience to kind of do that because it's like. You know, when you walk into a room and people are like older than you, there's almost like an implied level of like you're lower than them. So that's a weird thing to like kind of get over for me. Like it was for a while because I literally pretty much almost everybody I've interviewed has been older than me. How do you like when you walk into like studio settings? Are you usually the youngest person there?
Oh, I'm always the youngest person there. It's really weird because like people expect me to just be like some kid that someone else brought along, and I'm like, oh shoot, you're like making beats, you're the producer here. Oh, sorry, because they just assume that I'm just like someone's little brother.
Yeah. Do people get weirded out about that kind of stuff? Like when you walk into the room, it's almost like they're defensive or some shit because you're 16.
Honestly, no. Everyone I've met has been like really respectful about like my age and just like everything I'm doing.
See, that's super dope. I feel like that's a sign that music is almost like becoming more of a younger person's thing. I mean, it has been for a while, but even specifically in the Bay, like there's a lot of younger artists in the Bay. You just happen to be the first one I think I've interviewed. So do you have...
Let's go!
When did you like originally start producing? Because if you're 16, you must have started when you were pretty young.
Yeah, so I got into it. It's funny actually, because so Frenzy bought FL Studio, and he was like, I'm gonna start rapping. Because before he was on like Audacity, and that's a horrible, like that's not good.
It's cracked for free though.
Yeah, but it's just like, bro, come on, Audacity, come on.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, I'm gonna upgrade to FL Studio. At the time, I'm like, I played trombone. I go to art school, so I know about like music theory, but I'd never made any beats. So he was like, oh, there's 2 licenses that come with this FL Studio. I'm gonna just give you one. And like at first, like I just didn't want. I was like, I don't want to do this. Why would I want to do this? And then like over like a month. I just started doing it, and then COVID hit, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna make beats. So then through COVID, I was just making like beats like through my online classes. I was in math class, and my teacher was talking to me, and I'm like, oh, bro, come on now, I'm making beats. I'm busy. Yeah. So then that's kind of how I started.
Wow. So you kind of, when you approach a beat, do you approach it from more of like a music theoretical standpoint? Like, are you like I guess a good way to ask that is like when you're making a track, do you record and do you produce it with like a metronome, or do you kind of just like tempo in your head?
I just do. I kind of have I just have like Taylor Swift singing in my head like a melody, and then I can just write it down on FL Studio just because I have so many hours on it that it's just like muscle memory. Or just like I can just put this down now.
So that's what you're doing like all through quarantine, just like getting your hours
every
in.
single class.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. I wish you were the first person that I've heard that from. Like the amount of people who I've heard who were in high school during COVID and just like picked up a bunch of new skills because they were just neglecting their online classes is like ridiculous. I was one of them. Like I was a senior in high school during March of 2020, which was when COVID started. So it was like I pretty much like they just told us we were gonna have like a longer spring break, and then we just kind of never came back.
Oh yeah.
And now it's like. That's literally like 3 years ago at that point. That's crazy. Such a trip. So when did you first start like, I mean, since you started in COVID, when did you first start like getting into like the scene out here and kind of meet all the guys from so far ahead and then just like start kind of getting in the music scene and start to like, you know, be in studios, be out and about doing stuff?
Honestly, it all kind of happened fast. My first studio session was with a guy called Speedboat, and we went to J-Mo Soundcrafting. And that was like a massive experience for me. I was like, whoa, holy shit, this is crazy. There's like actually like studios like in my like city. This is crazy. I'd never been to like a music studio. I didn't even know like I've never even seen like the analog gear and shit. I'm just looking at it through like a digital thing, and that's another weird thing of like I go into a session and then I'm like I'm using all the analog all the digital versions, and the guys next to me are like, dude, there's there's one right there that one costs 20 grand, and you're using this one for like $20 that you found on the internet. And so then, that was my first session. And I think I met, Mac Archive. Shout out Mac Archive. That's my guy.
Shout out.
He put me, Frenzy, and I onto with Derek. Mm-hmm. And Derek's he's been hella cool and been like hooking us up with just everybody, like Pluto and like High Street and like a lot of, I've met a shit ton of people in the last like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, that's gotta be a pretty cool experience, like being so young and doing that. Like I almost wish like I was tapped in as much musically as you were when I was your age, because I would have loved to like grow up in a musical scene, because I kind of just grew up with like, you know, like school friends or whatever, and I was still super into music or whatever, but I didn't grow up like now I have a bunch of friends from music stuff, but it's like I didn't grow up with that. It's
I'm grateful as fuck for it.
Yeah.
I'm really glad it happened like that. I don't know what I did to do that, but I'm glad it happened like that.
Well, you did something, man. Like I feel like a lot of people, like especially when you're in high school or whatever, you'll say like, "Oh, I want to be a producer. I want to rap. I want to do this." But the difference is nobody actually goes out and does something. Like you went out and did it. You know what I mean?
That's fact, I guess. Yeah.
So you're back in school now. Like school's all in person again.
Yeah.
So you were literally a freshman when you started producing?
Is that right? Oh shit, I was a freshman when I started producing.
That's so crazy to me, bro. Yeah, that's super cool though that you kind of look at it from a theoretical lens, because like it is strange to think about, like if you think about FL, right? Like what is it? It's literally like you said, like the digitized version of all this like analog equipment that we're using.
But it's weird because I'm not old enough to like, I was born 2 years before the iPhone came out.
That's
to
crazy.
Put that in perspective. Like someone told me that and I was like, damn, bro, I'm young as fuck.
So but that's exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have your entire, I mean, so do I. I'm 20, but you have like literally your entire life.
I was like the first gen iPad kid.
Do you like, yeah, I guess so. You were like, see, this is trippy to think about. My brother's 14, but I think of him as like so much younger than me. And I guess you're only like 2 years older than him.
Yeah.
God, that's so cool weird. Though, bro. Or I think about like,
get him into making beats.
Dude, no, honestly, I feel like, well, think about this, right? Like if you started producing when you were 15 or 14, your ceiling is so much higher than somebody who started producing when they're 35.
That's facts.
Like, do you like think about stuff in terms of like far in the future since you're so young, or do you kind of just, are you living a day by day? Like, is music the plan?
Honestly, I don't know. I actually don't know. I really don't know if it's the plan or not.
Yeah.
I know that I'm capable of going into like different fields, but music is like, that's what I like doing. So yeah.
In school, so you said you're playing the trombone. Like, was that more of like a casual thing when you started? Like
no. So I really liked playing the trombone. Like I started in 6th grade, and I just like, I was a band kid. And that's just what I was. And then I was like, oh shit, I know this music theory. I'm gonna just apply it to this other music that I like. And then I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna just make beats. Yeah,
it's almost like directly applicable. I don't think people understand that.
Oh, it is. It's music theory. Like it's literally just the theory of all music, fundamental of all music created.
That's what's super cool about theory. It's like if you learn theory, you can understand like almost any musical concept. Like I think about this band teacher at my high school. She was a drummer, but she started on piano. She was like a classically trained drummer, but she like started on piano, and she just had such an understanding of like key theory that she could just literally play anything. Like she could probably go on FL and make a hard ass drill beat if she wanted to, just because she understands music theory. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but yeah. Honestly, if she set her mind to it, I'd give her a week. She could make a crazy ass drill beat.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, for real. So, since you are like a little bit younger, did you grow up on hip hop? Because I feel like although I'm not that much older than you, that probably is where the discrepancy in our age groups lie. It's like when I was growing up, like hip hop wasn't the most popular genre of music. When you were growing up, it was probably pretty close to it, right? Mm-hmm.
So what's weird is I remember like the first like popular music, like modern music I remember listening to is Marshmello.
Wow, that's super interesting.
Isn't that weird? Like right when Marshmello was getting big, I was like, oh, this shit's crazy. I had my Beat Studios, the first ones that came out, and I was bumping out Marshmello. And then Frenzy, who's my cousin, by the way, he put me on with this artist that was really getting big, Juice WRLD.
Yeah.
And so Juice WRLD is like the first rapper that I really listened to, and like I was like, damn, this is crazy. I'd never been heartbroken, but I was like, this is good music.
That's so fascinating to me because I think of like when I think of like Juice World or like Trippy or like that original 2016, 2015. Well, I guess Juice was later than that. I guess he was more so 2017, 2018. But when I think about like the really early SoundCloud stuff, right? Like Uzi and Yachty. When I think about that stuff, I think of it as like a turning point in hip hop. You know, I was listening to a little bit of hip hop before that, but that was like the first point where like I realized that like there were people in my age group that were changing music. But like for you, it was almost like the hip hop that you grew up on, I guess, which is so interesting. Do you remember the first time you like heard a Juice WRLD song? Yeah,
the first one I heard was Lucid Dreams. And it was just, I don't know. And I heard it, I watched like the Cole Bennett video.
Oh my God, I love that video.
And then it was weird as fuck. Like a week later, I go in a car and I hear it on the radio and I'm like, this is fucking weird. And that was when he was like getting like massive, like huge, like mainstream.
I have a super similar experience to that. There was when I was in high school, it would have been my sophomore year or my junior year, 2016, 2017. But there was this kid in my class, shout out, his name's Lucas. I don't know if he watches this, but his name's Lucas Kalika. Shout out him. He like, we had like it was like one of those days, I don't know if you guys did this, but like in high school, we'd have days where like, we'd go to the library to like plan our future classes for the next year or whatever. Just whatever. Yeah. So we were like in there and he's talking to me. We're talking about music or whatever. And he pulls up his SoundCloud and he's like, dude, you got to check this kid out. And he shows me Juice on SoundCloud, but he wasn't even Juice WRLD yet. He was Juice the Kid.
Juice the Kid.
Yeah, he was Juice the Kid. So it was like,
days.
And I was like, what the hell? And it blew my mind because I hadn't really heard anything about it. Because I was like I grew up on a lot of different shit, but like one of the main genres of music that I loved growing up was like pop punk. So it was like, this is like the logical next step for pop punk. It's like Juice WRLD really merged those two worlds in emo trap. So it's weird to think about like how influential he really was, especially to kids like you, dude. Do you think you ever would have stopped or started producing if you weren't in that kind of like SoundCloud world with like where you had guys like Cole Bennett who were like pushing the scene, or even like early Adam 22 interviews, or like Juice and Trippy and Uzi and Yachty, that early 2016, 2017 like SoundCloud scene?
Honestly, I feel like I would have gotten into producing some form of music, but probably not like trap hip hop. Like I might have gone into something else. Who knows? I don't know what I would have done.
Could you have like seen yourself like going down a different musical route? I know you said you're like a trombonist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I could definitely see myself in an alternate universe. I'm like a classical trombonist.
Yeah.
And I'd literally just go and play in like symphonies and shit. I definitely could see that happening.
Huh. So it's like before anything else, it's just like you love music. It's not. It's not bound by a genre.
I listen to John Coltrane every day.
Really?
Every day. He's the GOAT.
That's crazy. So is that kind of the music that your parents put you on to that you grew up with?
Yeah, there's that. I listen to a lot of New Orleans like brass bands too.
Wow. Okay.
That and like just classical like 60s jazz, and like that's the shit. That's the shit right there.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, because you think about like the music that we're talking about right now, the kind of music that you make,
like
right?
The polar opposite, and it's the weirdest shit. My dad's always like, bro, what the fuck? How do you listen to this and then go and make this like 20 minutes later?
But that's the thing, right? It's like they seem like they're polar opposites, but they're so connected in like ethos almost. It's like
facts.
You think about like hip hop and jazz, right? It's like they're all forms of black music, but it was just the logical next step for black music as it progressed. So it's interesting to think about like kids like you said, who are super into like both jazz and hip hop. Actually, my little brother is very similar. He's also a trombonist. He's a trombonist and a drummer. And
that's fucking sick.
Yeah, it's dope. But he's like super into like he'll like I'll go upstairs and he'll be listening to like either Miles Davis or like Tyler the Creator.
Shout out your brother.
Yeah, shout out my brother. But it's cool to see like a world where like I think like younger people are interested in multiple forms of music, not just one.
That's fact.
Since you were like a band kid, would you like listen to hip hop around like kids that were in band, and would they kind of like look down on you for that stuff?
Honestly, there's only like one or two people in my band now. Shout out John. Shout out John. Me and John, bro, we're going to the Baby Tron concert tomorrow.
Oh, with Kid Lords and Chucky opening, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I was hyped.
I was literally about to cop tickets, but they sold out so fast.
Bro, I'm so fucking hyped.
Bro, that'll be fun. You have to let me know how that goes.
Bro, it's gonna be lit. I'm gonna take hella videos.
Yeah, bro, send me them. Shout out Kid Lords, bro. Those are the homies. They're crazy. I'm so happy for them. They got that opportunity.
Facts.
That's at the complex, right?
I'm going to the one in. There's one in San Francisco at Brick and Mortar.
Oh.
I think he's doing the one in Oakland,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that he's going to San Francisco and
Brick
doing
and
the one in
Mortar.
Brick and Mortar Music Hall.
Dope ass venue.
Hell yeah.
Shout out Brick and Mortar. So like growing up in San Francisco and kind of like growing up on jazz music and stuff like that, when did you like first kind of like realize that music was something you wanted to take seriously after you started producing?
Oh shit. I don't know. Actually, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't even know if I take it. Yeah, I guess I take it seriously, but like, it's just, for me, it's another thing. It's not like I don't like see like, yeah, bro, I'm going to have a job after this. Like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'll just be a software engineer.
Yeah.
And I'll do music on the side. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's honestly like, I feel like there's a lot of power thinking about it that way. I feel like too many people get wrapped up in like, this has to be my career now. You know, it's like, at the end of the day, I feel like you should create as long as you want to create. And then the second you want to stop creating, stop. But it's like, until that point, I don't think you should be super like actively trying to produce or actively trying to pursue the money aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the art should come first, and then if that somehow translates into money, then that's a bonus. You know what I mean?
That's facts. Derek has a very strong opinion on this website called BeatStars, and he just what? No, he just says people on BeatStars are just, they're prioritizing the wrong thing. And I honestly,
I kind of agree.
I agree too.
Yeah.
And he put me on with that take, and I appreciate him for that. Because
that's an interesting way to
look
look at
it.
it.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna start selling beats on BeatStars. He's like, bro, why are you gonna do that? Just send them to. I'll give you artists to send them to. Make the music first, and then sell it later.
Yeah, that's actually fascinating. You know, that ties into like the idea of like working. I've always said, I think artists, and not just musicians, any kind of artist, that you have to stop thinking about like working for no monetary value as working for free.
That's fact.
And I don't know if that makes sense, but what I mean by that is you have to work for that placement. You have to work for that connection. You have to work to get this opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's not money, but there's an intangible amount of value that comes with those things. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just... If every time you make a beat, you think about like, oh, how much money am I going to make off this beat? You're probably not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're also not going to get better that way.
Exactly.
How much better do you feel like you've gotten since you started making beats? Like, do you feel like you're like...
It's like
worlds better.
It's like night and day. It's actually unreal. I was making beats that sounded like it was just weird shit. It's also like the development of like finding new like plugins and the VSTs and shit that make like different sounds, and like learning how to use synthesizers and shit. So just that, like, just develop my sound.
It's all a learning curve, especially in the world of modern production. You think about like how different somebody sounds in like regards to what kind of packs they have, what plugins they have. It's like there really is a bit of a money barrier. You know what I mean? Like the kind of shit you can make if you have Omnisphere is like a lot different than the kind of stuff you can make if you don't.
Yeah.
Did you ever would you ever kind of like mix the two worlds of music you make? Do you think you'd ever try to like do some trombone samples on a beat or anything like that?
So many motherfuckers have asked me that, bro. I've tried to put trombone in a beat, and it just ends up sounding funky because like I don't just have like a fancy ass like horn mic. Yeah. So I'd have to go to like a studio or like find a mic somehow and get like a good recording environment, because it's not like a voice. Like that shit will like, when I play a trombone, like it actually like vibrates the walls and shit. Like there's like low ass frequencies.
You can't record it into like a Shure mic. You know what I mean? Like,
you gotta have a specific mic to record like all the important aspects of the instrument. Yeah,
dude. When I think about like big band stuff, it's so impressive to me. Like the like coordination that's involved in recording like a big band session.
That shit blows my mind.
Think about like how many mics they have, how many different rigs they have. Like that's actually mind blowing. Like an entire symphony.
Bro, bless those engineers.
Yeah, for real. Did you so I guess kind of speaking on like another musical world, if you're an instrumentalist, if you're a producer, have you ever tried the rap angle, or did that ever appear to you or like appeal to you, or did you never kind of want to go down that?
There's been so many times where like, hey, hit a freestyle. Bro, it's not for me. My brain just goes completely, turns off when people say freestyle. It literally turns off.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
That's interesting.
It's just not how my brain works. I just don't think of words like that.
Yeah, I feel that. I think it can totally be as simple as that. You know what I mean? Like I could never see myself doing something like that. It's also just not really how my brain works. I think if I were to do something more musically, because I play drums, but if I were to do something more musically, like seriously, I think like production is what I would take to. I don't think I think in terms of lyrics. I think I understand like melody and harmony and like these
thinking in
musical
terms of
elements
lyrics
more.
is fucking hard.
Oh, it's an art,
I
dude.
feel like people are like shit on people who like people shit on like poets, like people of my generation shit on like poets. Like, bro, those motherfuckers are talented.
Oh, dude, of course. I always, when I was in school, I remember like always shitting on like the English teachers that make us learn
That's
like
facts.
haikus and
That's
stuff.
facts.
You know
Like
what I mean?
Shakespeare, bro. Shakespeare was raw.
Yeah,
he's
dude.
Actually, he's crazy.
Were you like a good student in school, how are you right now?
I think I'm a good student.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with during COVID, I don't think I was a good student.
Yeah.
Like I got all A's, but like I just didn't apply myself at all.
Yeah, I feel that.
I didn't learn anything.
Yeah, that was kind of how I was like during my last year of COVID too. Like I got all A's, but it was like everybody got all A's.
Exactly.
You didn't have to do anything. You know what I mean?
Fog a mirror and you get A's. It's like,
Yeah, dude, literally. So you missed your first 2 years of high school?
not really. Honestly, like you don't really need freshman year. What? I met people. I met some friends in freshman year, and then COVID hit, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make beats. It's cool.
See, I don't know. Like maybe I'm over.
I think soda is a little different. Like,
so that's an
there's
art
really
school,
just-
correct?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is like there's only like 700 people at my school, and that's like,
Oh, like
that's
in total.
Yeah, in total, that's like astronomically low for a public school.
Yeah, how big's your class?
My class is like 170, 200.
Oh my god, dude.
So it's hella
my
small. So,
graduating
like-
class was like 700.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just don't have that many people to meet, so I can meet them all. I met them all in like what one half a school year or whatever, and then I'm like, COVID, whatever.
Since there's only like 170 or 180 kids in your class, like, do a lot of your friends or like people from your school or whatever, do a lot of them have like a bunch of friends outside of school?
Oh fuck yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it seems
That's
like
just how it works.
Yeah.
There's just not enough people to like build enough connect. You're not gonna like everyone you meet.
yeah, of course, dude.
But honestly, there's a better chance of liking people you meet because if everyone's involved in some sort of art, like I feel like artists usually get along.
That's how I feel about like college majors. You know what I mean? Like if you're like in a class, like let's say like you're majoring in engineering or something. If you're in a class with a bunch of other engineering students, obviously you have like one implied common interest, so you're more likely to get along.
Yeah.
I think that's why I make so many friends at like concerts. Like I have so many like
Exactly, because you're all there to see the same thing, so you automatically already have that in common of like, oh, we both like Tyler the Creator. Oh, boom.
Yeah, literally.
Together.
What kind of hip hop do you listen to now? I know you said like when you first got into it, you were listening to a lot of like that SoundCloud era type stuff. But what lately has grabbed your ears?
The legend, Rich Amiri. I bet nobody in this room knows who that is.
I don't.
He is so fire. He's on the come up. He's working with Internet Money.
Okay.
And all those guys, and he
Taz
is,
Taylor and Nick Muir and all them.
honestly mostly just with Rio, who's
Okay.
who's a separate artist that's in Internet Money, but he is so talented. He's like Giveon and Sofago combined.
So like a melodic R&B type thing.
His shit is pretty out there.
Yeah.
It's out there, but it's hella good though.
Internet Money is super cool. I think of Internet Money as like the group of producers that like were most influential to that very era you were just talking about.
That's Nick Muir is my influence.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you say he's like the biggest influence on you?
He's definitely the biggest influence on me.
That makes a lot of sense because
I
like
learned how to use FL Studio like watching his Twitch streams.
oh dude, I used to watch those little like cook-up sessions he'd
They're
do and post on YouTube.
He's so talented, bro. It's actually wild watching that motherfucker
It's
work.
insane to me how quickly he makes a beat.
It's wild.
Do you like? Are you anywhere close to that fast? Like, how long does an average beat take you?
I'm kind of getting there. If you watch the best, you will at some point like get close to that level, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And literally just me watching him and like seeing the way he does shit and what his workflow is and like the things that he learned first on FL Studio. Like he explained it. Like go in, look at all the fucking hotkeys, learn all the hotkeys. That's the first thing I did. Learned all the hotkeys. So like nobody would know that Alt K, that shit makes all the notes C. Why does it do that? I don't know.
I didn't know that.
So if you want to make a kick pattern, then you just paste your 808 pattern, then you hit Alt K, and that makes all the notes C.
Whoa.
And then you hit Shift D, and it makes them all like little small ones, and then that's your kick pattern done.
Hotkeys are so
Bro, it's so
broken,
goated. It's so
dude.
goated.
Yeah, that was like when I learned Premiere Pro to edit. That was like kind of the same thing I did.
It's so fire.
I went through and I learned all the hotkeys first. Nick Muir kind of had a similar like lens of production from you, right? Didn't he like pretty much all self-taught type thing?
I'm pretty sure that he's all self-taught. I mean, I know that he played guitar.
Uh-huh.
So that's also like kind of similar to me. Like he played an instrument before and then was like, oh, this music theory shit. Boom.
Is the only instrument you play trombone?
Yeah, I dabble in piano. I don't think I play piano.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I think like that era, I know we just talked about this, but kind of even like adding to it. Like it's like Internet Money was the production group of that era, and then you had like Lyrical Lemonade that was like the like the video company, and then you had like a lot of those rappers were getting big too, and they had like a No Jumper interview. And then it's like you think of like the platform for that whole entire breeding ground was SoundCloud. It's such like an iconic era. Like when I think about it, it's like I think of it as like the first moment where I saw hip hop like actively changing, like watching it change, which was super cool to live through. Are you picky with like the artists that you work with? Like do you have to like kind of gel with an artist to want to work with them, or will you kind of just work with anybody? Like what's your kind of thoughts on that?
I'm pretty much work with anybody. There's a certain bar you have to meet. The bar is not that high. It's like you gotta have a mic, and that's about it.
Huh? Why do you kind of think of it that way?
Honestly, if you anybody can really set their like okay, there's people with like good ear and bad ear. Anybody that really sets their mind to it, I feel like you can definitely do music. You can definitely sing or rap or do something. Like just put the hours in, put the work in. Don't get frustrated when it doesn't come to you right away. Just you could probably do it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like the way that I think about it, I feel like some people overhype the idea of like natural talent.
That's right.
Like it definitely is an important part of the reason a lot of people become successful, I think. But it's also like I do think like in the modern age of music, like when you can learn anything off YouTube, it is entirely possible to like become the next like triple platinum selling producer based on stuff you learn on YouTube. I mean, look, like there's proof, bro. Like the amount of people that do that kind of stuff now is like insane. Like I think about young Keo, the guy that produced Old Town Road. It's like that fool, like literally, he's a
legend.
Yeah, like and he literally just like learned everything on YouTube.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I love that shit.
Yeah, I feel lucky to grow up in this time. You know what I mean? Like I've never resonated with people who are like, oh, like I was born in the wrong generation. I feel like I was born in the perfect generation. Exactly. I love the generation I was born in.
You got Google and shit.
Yeah.
YouTube.
We're lucky,
I have so many hours on YouTube in my lifetime.
Yeah, me too,
it's
dude.
Problematic.
And like when I used to like be super applied in school, like when I was in high school and I would try really hard, YouTube was like my second teacher.
Bro, the organic chemist.
Yeah, literally.
Shout out the organic chemist.
The organic chemist, and what was the
Khan Academy?
Yeah, there was Khan Academy, but then what's the there's one guy learned a bunch. I think I might be thinking of Khan Academy. It was Khan Academy like the group of people where like they would write on the boards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, on the virtual board.
Yes.
The organic chemist also copied Khan Academy's flow, but I don't know. Khan Academy got a little institutionalized. It got a little too institutionalized.
Did it?
A little bit. I mean, it's cool. I still go on there, but the organic chemist is my guy.
Or Hank Green. Hank Green. Or wait, is it Hank or because they're brothers?
Some Green.
Well, they're brothers. One of them wrote The Fault in Our Stars, and then the other one is like a dude online who like teaches shit over YouTube.
One of them's whatever. It's just a guy, bro. He just teaches on YouTube.
Yeah, dude. Do you listen to like? I mean, I know you said you listen to both hip hop and a lot of like jazz and classical music. Do you find yourself like having trouble balancing what you're listening to? Like, how do you usually like? Do you just listen to what you're gravitated towards at the time?
Honestly, sometimes I'm just like, damn, I want to listen to Giant Steps.
Yeah.
I can't control that. My brain just sometimes wants to listen to some 505s. That's just how it works. There's no 505s in hip hop.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not the kind of thing you have to overthink.
Also, I feel like it's also like your ears can't just listen to the same thing over and over. Like to some extent, like all hip hop music is all in this boat, but like jazz is just so like far away from that with everything. So it's like I kind of give my ears a break. If I'm gonna make hip hop and I listen to jazz, it's like my ears are getting refreshed. I'm gonna get these new ideas in.
It's almost like cleansing your palate.
Exactly, cleansing your palate.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like you cleanse your palate before you go back in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a cool way to look at it. Do you like when you find yourself like working on a beat? Are you only inspired by other hip hop music, or are there like outside influences that tend to like inspire a beat in your mind?
Honestly, sometimes I'll listen to like so there's like soloists in jazz, and sometimes I'll hear like a line from a soloist. Like I've ripped some of John Coltrane's soloist lines.
And use them as like melodies and beats?
Yeah. I mean, I've changed it a lot. Like I've done but like the main base of it, like I've literally just ripped some of his lines and just put them on FL Studio and just used them.
You got to be the only producer around doing shit like that.
Honestly, I feel like there's other motherfuckers that are doing that. Honestly, though,
you think so?
I think I think that it's cool as fuck if you like take someone else's thing and you just completely revamp it and do something completely different with it. Well, you're not even taking their work.
Not at all.
You're repurposing it, and it's good. Like they're never gonna know. John Coltrane. I mean, he's dead, but John Coltrane is never gonna know, or nobody's gonna know that like I ripped a John Coltrane lip and turned it into a beat.
Yeah, dude. I feel like we have to stop thinking of music as though it's created in a vacuum. You know what I mean? Like everything is like everything's inspired by something else. Mm-hmm. The best musicians that we think of in our mind, they were all inspired by somebody. Mm-hmm. Led Zeppelin stole half of their riffs from like Sam Cooke songs and like old blues and soul songs, like Al Green songs, and it's like they kind of made them a lot better. So we don't think of that as stealing, you know.
And they popularized it. They did it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everything. I don't know. I feel like it's very hard to have like an original musical thought that isn't like in some form like based on
music. Has literally been around since like the beginning of humankind. So it's like, how am I going to come up with some shit that no one else in these fucking however long humans have been alive, like how am I going to come up with some shit that nobody's ever done?
Well, if you think about like how we think of music too, like the idea of like forming like this is weird to think about, but like imagine like trying to think of a sound in your head that you've never heard.
That's a weird thought.
You know what I mean? Like how could you, if you have no reference point, like how could you think of sound?
It's literally unfathomable.
Yeah.
Unfathomable sound.
This is like hurting my head. Like I'm having trouble like thinking about that. Yeah. Like you can't, or like think about it this way, right? Like imagine like, I've never thought about this, but imagine like trying to visualize a color that you've never seen.
Yeah, that shit's out there.
Yeah, that's a trip.
That's weird.
That's the kind of thing that if you think about it too hard, it'll hurt your head.
Honestly, I feel like if you put things together, I feel like at some point you'll get a new. Like if you just keep putting things two together, two and two, it's like genetics. Mm-hmm. Like you just two parents and then they create something completely new.
Like that was like one concept, dude. Through school, I felt like there were so many science concepts that I learned in like 6 different classes, and one of them was like the idea of like an allele. I feel like I learned like the idea of like an allele and like these genetic concepts like in like 5 different classes, or like what kind of fucking rocks there are. Like
biology was one of the classes I took over COVID. I have no idea what that is. I'm gonna keep it a stack. I have no idea what that is.
That's funny. When you're like trying to make a beat and you're kind of like producing and working, do you tend to get in like any creative slumps? And if so, like how do you tend to break out of those?
Listen to different music. People are like, "Oh, I have beat block. I have beat block." You're probably listening to the same song over and over again all day. Listen to different artists. You can't listen to Lil Baby for all day, bro. You can't listen to Babytron all day. You gotta like spice it up, get some variety in, and I'm sure you will come up with new ideas.
That's interesting. I think that honestly, a lot of people probably do that, but they wouldn't admit it because we were just talking about. It's like nobody wants to be like called unoriginal or as if they're like copying somebody.
It's like you can't just be Nick Mira. Like Nick Mira is Nick Mira.
Yeah.
You have to be your own persona. If you want to like use his style or like do shit that he does, you got to change it a little bit though. Like if people want a beat from Nick Mira, they're gonna go to Nick Mira to get it. Like if you have to make your own shit to where they're like, oh, I want a VVSThomas beat.
But that's the thing. Also, like Nick Mira, just like everybody else, is an amalgamation of like all the things that he was influenced by, in the same way that you are, in the same way that I am. Like any creative is an amalgamation of the things that they were like influenced by. Like I said, like I don't think creativity happens in a vacuum. What's your process kind of like? Like, do you work on beats like in the studio setting a lot, or are you more of somebody who produces like in their room at home?
You got to be a veteran producer.
Yeah,
you gotta be. You can't be showing up to a session and be like, "Oh, guys, I'm gonna make this beat." No, the people bought that time in that session to record.
Yeah,
and like I don't think I've ever paid for a studio session.
Really?
Like, I don't think I've ever paid. Like it's always people bringing me like, "Yo, I want to just have you on demand with all of your beats here." And I want to just cycle through them, and I want to make ideas and just bounce ideas off each other and just come up with shit. I don't think I've made maybe one beat in a studio.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like the same thing. My house is the same.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's either a laptop in a studio or a laptop at your house. So what's the difference?
It's also like, if these people are like nice enough, kind enough to bring me to this session, like I'm not going to like waste their time in that session with me making beats. Like I didn't pay, like... They're paying for the session, so I can give them my beats and we can work together.
Yeah, 100%. Is the way you get most of your beats out there like through studio sessions like that? Like, or do you ever send packs, or are you pretty much?
I love sending packs. So that was like I was kind of shy about like going to studio sessions with people because like I was like, oh, this is kind of scary. So I used to just ask for like a ton of people's emails, and I just sent beats to like I sent loops to other producers, and I sent beats to like different artists that I see, or like Frenzy will be like, yo, send beats to this artist, send beats to this artist, send beats to this artist, or like Derek will be like, oh, I got this artist I'm working with. Send beats to him. Here's their email. Thank you very much. And then I just send like a pack.
So you're the kind of person who'll just send shit to anybody, regardless of like.
Honestly, as long as you're making music, I think I'm okay with sending you a pack.
See, I think we have a similar philosophy in terms of like people I want to interview. You know what I mean? Like I always get the question like, do you love everybody's music that you interview? And like obviously the answer is no.
Yeah.
Like that'd be ridiculous if the answer was yes. But it's like, dude, like it's not really about that. You know what I mean? It's about two things, I think. It's about giving people who I think are genuine a platform. That's number one. And then number two, it's about like, I think the only like other thing I even care about is like, do they care?
That's
like
facts.
if they care enough if they care enough to create the quality of something that someone will like, that's good enough for me. That's the thing. Like it might not be for me. Like I like your beats. I like the stuff you produce, but it's like you're welcome. But it's like if I didn't, maybe somebody else would. You know what I mean? So it's not about like you coming on here.
Not everything is for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like part of the reason why I kind of like just stray away from like being super forthright with a lot of my musical opinions, because like I feel like people tend to I don't really think there's a such thing as like a good or a bad song. Do you think there can be like a song that's like good or bad?
I think there's like we've been conditioned to think that there's objectively bad music.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
I feel like there's like I don't know, maybe in my brain. I feel like there's some objectively bad music, but it's like a very finite amount, and it's like you gotta really not know what you're doing to make some objectively bad music. But I feel like 99, if you try, you will make good music.
Well, what do you think makes something like objectively bad? I don't know if I don't know if I feel like anything can be objectively bad musically, because I feel like it's all up to interpretation.
I feel like it's just like there's some rules that are put in place not because they're trying to keep you inside of a box, but because like that's what humans' ears like.
No, I see what you're saying.
If you're making a tritone beat, it's not like objectively it's not going to be ear pleasing to the ear. Yeah,
or if you think about like
I bet someone could pull it off. If you try making a beat out of tritones, I bet you could do it. But I feel like someone that just doesn't know what they're doing, it will probably end up making that, and it'll be like, oh damn.
I'm trying to remember the exact term for this. Excuse my ignorance, but what's the name for two chords that just like diatonically don't sound good together? It's like used in lo-fi music a lot. Like you have two chords and they clash. It's like
dissonance.
Dissonance, yes. There's dissonance and there's consonance, where it's like, I don't think, like you said, like I think dissonance is a musical concept that like
that's okay. That's fact. I feel like I agree with that. There can definitely be dissonance that sounds good.
Yeah, like think about like lo-fi music. You know, like
there's lot of 13 chords. Like, objectively, that's not supposed to sound good. You're not supposed to put like a triad's made of 1, 3, 5. The sharp 4 is not supposed to be in there. Yeah, but people do it and it sounds good.
Yeah, it's like the whole concept of like dissonant chords. I think the reason those sound good though is because of the very specific musical environment that's tailored around them. Like lo-fi music, like think about like in terms of production, it's usually compressed to all hell. It's usually like
sidechained.
Yeah, and then exactly. And the drums are like very specific. It's usually like a very mid-tempo, like 4 to the floor type beat, and like
people study to it.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
You gotta fit the audience that you're.
And the
that you're looking
snare
for.
is like just super thin, like super compressed, and it's like when you think about that, it's like I think if you can make anything sound decent if you provide like a solid musical context around it.
That's facts.
You know what I mean? Because I think of like, I guess another example would be like lo-fi music in general. Think about like garage rock, right? It's like the lo-fi production that was used in garage rock was done so out of necessity, but it's like now people will use that as almost an aesthetic, like a lo-fi sounding production, or like a strange mix.
People add like distortion and shit, and it's just because like I think humans have been conditioned to thinking like if something's too perfect, you gotta like add some sort of spice or some sort of like cracks of the perfectness. You got to crack it a little bit or add some dirt, add some grunge. And then, like humans are more conditioned to like that.
I think a good example of this is Whole Lotta Red, honestly, because like if you listen to the way that record's mixed, it's the vocals are so harsh, like they're so abrasive, and it's like I remember listening to that.
It's like a perfect acquired taste.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And like speaking from somebody who didn't like that album when it first came out, and now I love it. It's like it is totally an acquired taste. It's one of those things that like it really does take time to grow on you, and I think like I have a lot of respect for musicians who are able to like consciously make music that they know will grow on you. Like Cardi's a great example of that. When Self-Titled came out, nobody liked it.
Yeah.
Now people think of it as one of the most
greatest
important
album ever.
people think of it as one of the most important hip hop albums of the last decade. Or you think about like Die Lit when it came out with like he was doing the baby voice stuff and all the electronic
like,
production.
What the fuck is this, bro? This isn't music.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, this is art.
Is there one artist you hear like from a production lens that like you think is like doing like things that are changing the industry like more than anybody else?
Oh shit. Honestly, Rio from Internet Money, that guy is making beats. Like he posts like Instagram stories as a joke, like, oh, I made this beat, I'm communicating with the aliens. And it's like some weird ass shit. There's hella distortion and hella weird ass chords. But that guy is seriously innovating music. He is like seriously talented. That motherfucker is changing the game.
Who's he worked with?
Internet Money. He's worked with everybody. He's literally worked like I'm sure he's worked with Lil Baby. He's worked with like, he's on all the Internet Money albums and shit. All the Internet Money songs. He's worked with everybody. You just don't even know about him just because he's like, he's in the shadow of Nick Mira and Taz Taylor. But he's there.
That's a weirder thing too. It's like, it's only been like the last 5 years that like the producer has been able to like be a star.
That's fact. Like Murda Beats.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
He's the guy. Like he's the guy. He's an artist.
Because of the Migos shit, right? Like it was because he was just hanging out with Migos when they were coming up, right? That was like where Murda Beats came from, right?
Yeah. And him and Metro.
I was gonna say Metro. Like to me, like I think Metro was like probably the first. Well, obviously, okay. Well, okay. I think you have like anomalies, right? So if you think back into like early hip hop, obviously like Rick Rubin was a household name. Obviously, like there were producers that were household names, but I don't think it was till like recently to where you can have like something like Internet Money that like exists in the modern form, and it's like there can be multiple producers in this collective that like their names hold weight. Yeah. I love the idea of like a production collective. I think that's so cool.
That shit's so cool.
Did you ever work collaboratively with like people on beats and other producers?
Yeah, that's something that is an acquired taste for me because maybe it's just me, but I grew into making beats like at the beginning of quarantine. I was doing it on my own. Yeah. So I was like, why am I gonna send you a loop? Like why not I could just do it myself? But then as I started working with more people just by like kind of forcefully getting like working, meeting other people and like, oh, let's make a beat together. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I make a beat together and I'm like, oh shit, this is hella cool. I'm like, we're like bouncing ideas off each other and like, this is cool shit. I've never made shit like this. Yeah. Like, this is hella cool.
It gives you like entirely new ideas.
Exactly.
Do you ever get like conflicting processes? Like if you were making a beat with somebody and like you want to start with the drums and they want to start with the melody.
It's like, there's kind of some little social rules that have to happen. Like if I'm not fucking with it, bro, we gotta sort this out. We gotta sort this out. But like, yeah.
Do you start every beat the same? Like, do you start with like a specific element of a beat, or like do you kind of approach everything differently?
There's some cases where I'm like, I have a melody in my head, and I'll start with the melody. But like, if I don't have a melody that I'm like set on doing, then I'm gonna start with chords, because chords give you the idea to make the melody. That's
interesting. So I feel like you probably have more of like a melodic or more of a melodic brain than like a percussive brain. Mm-hmm. See, that's interesting that you start with chords too, because I feel like that's a very like theoretical lens to look at hip hop production through.
If I didn't have any musical training, I feel like I would not want to start with chords. I feel like a lot of people look at chords and are like, dude, that shit is so hard. There's so much there's so many moving parts and it's so complicated. I don't know. It's just something that came to me.
See, I think chords are like hard to perfect if you're playing like classical piano, but if you're like if you're on like FL Studio, like there's so many shortcuts, and it's not like you have to, you know what I mean? Like if you're on your MIDI keyboard and you play a C chord, you can just copy and paste that C chord a bunch of times. It's not like you have to know how to like transition from like a C to an F minor. You know what I mean?
But that's the beauty of it. I learned how to transition from a C to F minor. So I can just fucking do that shit. If I want to go from C to F minor, I can just do it.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like you you were such like, I feel like it's almost like I think it's like you were like born in a lab to make beats, dude. Like you have an understanding of theory and like you started when you were 16. You know what I mean? Like that's such a funny and unique thing to like learn early in your life.
That's facts.
Theory is like, I feel like a very underrated tool in the lens of hip hop production. Do you think like is there ever a time where like you're making a beat and you don't use theory, or is it the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it just the way you think of music?
It's just the way I think of music.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's weird like that. Sometimes I'll just hear some shit. I'm like, ooh, that was nice, and then I'll go figure out what that was.
Yeah, because you have like an understanding of chords, and you get an understanding of like note values,
and I'm really grateful. I don't know why I gravitated toward that just as a person, but I'm really grateful I did, because that shit is cool.
Was that like your first like understanding of music? Because I feel like people either learn music through a sonic lens or like a theoretical lens. You know what I mean? That's like their first understanding of it.
I feel like I did learn it sonically first, but then I had to learn about theory. So then I was like, oh, well, this theory can be applied to the shit that I'm listening to. So like, I'll just do both.
Yeah.
Why not sonic and theoretical both?
Because obviously they're hand in hand. Yeah. I just think like if you can understand the sonics of something without understanding the theory, whereas you can't understand the theory without understanding the sonics.
Oh, this one was getting into science now. Honestly, I think you're right.
Yeah, right. When you're making a beat, do you kind of like, I know you said you like to send packs and stuff. Will you make a pack more often like for somebody, or will you make a pack and then later you'll find out who you want to send it to? Like, are you often like working like for a specific artist, or does that usually come after?
I find that the best shit I make is when my mind roams freely. If I'm thinking about one style of music, I'm just going to make like the same beat over and over again, but like a little different every time. If I'm thinking about making a Lil Baby type beat, I'm just going to do the same shit over again and over again. And it's because I'm going to think about the same Lil Baby song over and over again. So it's like, if I have an idea of someone, I feel like I'm going to gravitate towards the same ideas in the beat I'm making. But if I just let my mind roam freely, and then after the fact I'm like, oh shit, this is kind of like a Solfago beat, let me send it to Solfago.
Do you get in like the habit of like making beats that are like from a similar wheelhouse, or will you kind of jump all over the place? Will you make one beat that's like more of an abrasive electronic thing, and then one thing that's more like laid back and lo-fi? Like, do you kind of like get in waves where you're making one type of the same thing?
I don't want to sound like a cornball, but it's all about my mood or like the vibes. Like, it's like, I know everyone says that, but it's like literally, if I want to make a slow ass beat, I'm gonna make a slow ass beat.
Yeah, like you got to be in that energy. Yeah.
If I want to make a rage beat, I'm gonna make a rage beat. Yeah. That's just like what my brain will gravitate towards. So it's just what's gonna end up coming out of the FL Studio. So
it's like whatever's up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Is FL the only thing you work in? Like, is that did you start in FL, or have you kind of worked with other DAWs?
I've tried, bro. GarageBand is horrible, and it's just like, it's so clunky and gross. Ableton is good. I appreciate people that use that. I appreciate people that use any DAW, but like Ableton, I fuck with Ableton. I started mixing in Pro Tools. Shout out Abby for plugging me with that Pro Tools license, because it was expensive as fuck.
Why do you mix in Pro Tools but produce in FL? Is it just easier?
Because Pro Tools is like the industry standard, and it's like if you go to a studio, they're most likely gonna have Pro Tools. So I feel like it's important for me as like a producer and a beat maker and like an engineer to know Pro Tools or know how to use it and like know what I'm doing in both of them. Yeah.
Have you ever ran a session like engineer wise?
Yes, I have.
Oh, that's cool, dude.
It was hella cool.
Have you ever? What studios have you worked at?
I've worked at. So I didn't run J Mo's session, but I was there watching him run it. And that was cool. And then I guess I didn't run it, but at Hyde Street. At Hyde Street, I was engineering there, and then we were recording, and it was just it's a cool experience, and it's cool like being like the guy, like, oh yeah, let's use this mic, and then let's hook it up to this input, and then run it through this, and then run it through this. Okay, and now we got the Pro Tools. Okay, record. What beat do you guys want? There you go.
I feel like if you're 16 and you can get the confidence to like engineer a session, it's like you can have the confidence to do anything at that point. Because I'm sure like when you're in those sessions running them, like every artist that walks in is probably older, right?
Oh, I think I'm probably the youngest person that's ever been inside Hyde Street. That's like actually making music, which is kind of weird to think about. Like I was talking to one of the guys there, and he's like, "Wait, you're 16? Why are you even here?" And I'm like, I'm just
shit,
making music. I'm just
Yeah.
making music.
Will you ever like in those moments when you're engineering, like let's say you're like sitting at the board, right, and somebody walks in, like, and they have a session with like in the studio you're working with, will they ever look at you sideways, kind of be surprised that you're so
like,
young?
You're sick. What is this kid doing here? Do we have an engineer, or is this kid what we got?
Is this the kid's son? Yeah. Whose
yeah,
son is this?
exactly. Yeah, it's. Nobody's ever said that. I don't think anyone ever will say that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've gotten looks.
Good for you, bro. Though, fuck them if they think that way. You know what I mean? It should have nothing to do with like whether or not you can effectively run a session.
Yeah.
Has literally nothing to do with it. When you like, I know you said you kind of approach production from a theoretical lens. Is there like a place where that falls off, and then you kind of have like a most challenging spot of a beat? Like when you're making a beat, what do you think is the hardest part?
Oh shit! Probably coming up with drums that are different. I want like, you want it to be simple so that the artist is not going to look at it and be like, there's so much shit happening here. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to, because I've definitely made beats like that where I just do way too much with the drums, and then I send it to an artist like, dude, I don't know what you want me to do with this. Like, this is a song. Just publish it.
So like,
done.
yeah. So
but
like,
I gotta make it interesting and different every time, but not do too much to where the artist is gonna look at it and be like, bro, I don't know what to do here.
like you still got to keep it reminiscent of like hip hop drums instead of like Like if you go in there and you do like a swingy ass like jazz pattern, that's gonna be like super hard to rap over.
Yeah,
that's
it's
funny.
Just, I have to keep in mind that I'm only like half of what's gonna happen with this song.
Yeah,
like, I'm putting the melody and the drums together, and someone else is gonna have to come and make music that like rhymes and means something and like has a good melody, and like they add their own harmonies and shit. So like I have to just keep in mind that someone else is gonna add on to this. So I can't have it be a complete finished product with like tons of crazy shit happening everywhere.
And it's super important to think of it that way. I feel like producers often think of themselves as like
that's something
making
that
the song.
I think I'm still working on, is honestly like making shit that like is available for like a lot more people to get on.
Like stuff that just makes more sense for more artists to get on, opposed to something that's a bit more niche.
Because if I send you a beat and you're just sitting there like overwhelmed with all the drums, and that's honestly on me. Because I added too much shit, and I'm doing too much. If you can't like freestyle, or you can't think of anything because there's so much stuff happening,
it's on you.
Then that's on me, because they can't do anything on my beat because I did too much with it.
I think it's a good way of looking at it. I think like the way that I think about that, at least in my own life, is like I think of like me interviewing people, right? It's not your job to be interesting. Mm-hmm. It's my job to make you interesting.
And I fuck with you for that.
Oh, appreciate you, bro. I fuck with you too, man. I think it's really cool to see like somebody of your age in San Francisco like coming up and doing the things that you are. It's honestly inspiring, and I feel like there's probably a lot of people who get a lot from this interview because it's never, you're never too young to like start chasing your passion, and I think you're a great example of that, brother.
Thank you.
Dude, of course, man. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, dude, great. Of course. Thank you. Tell them where they can listen to your stuff, where they could like follow you on Instagram, where they could request beats if they want to pack. Where just plug your stuff real quick.
VVSThomas on Instagram. Go to Frenzies Spotify, and go to Rego Craze Spotify. Shout out them. They're both there. Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Music matters.